Okay, so next I'd like to talk about sheet layers and viewports. Right, so we had set up a piece of paper over our drawing, which is okay, right? But so far our drawing doesn't really fit on there very well. We may want to look at different views, and we may want to look at different scales, and reconfiguring that page every time is really going to be hard. And there is a better way and a better option that they give us. So far we've been working with just classes, right, to define styles, and then layers to define common objects, whether that's lighting or architecture or set or whatever else that we may decide we want to have more global control over. There is another option, and let's look in our dialog box. If I open this dialog box, if I open it, there it is, right? So we have the tabs across the top. The first one is classes, and we're familiar with classes. Those are styles. We're also familiar with design layers, which is where we can set scale and again define common objects. The next tab over is actually called sheet layers. Now, when I go to my sheet layers, I have an instructional file, so I have a bunch of them right now. You probably have none. And what I want to do is let's go ahead and create a sheet layer with a viewport. And what a sheet layer is actually it's a piece of paper. Rather than having infinite design space, we're actually provided with a piece of paper, and what is on that page is what's going to print. And we can put a lot of different information and views and different things on that sheet. So let's go ahead and create one, and they're really pretty easy to do. So I'm looking at my drawing, and the first thing that I would like to do is to define an area that I would like to look at or that I would like to print. And so what I'm going to do is just draw a rectangle. I'm just going to draw a rectangle that's a little bigger than my stage that I want to look at, and there's my rectangle. It has a fill, and it doesn't matter, but I am just going to go for clarity, and I'm just going to turn that fill off. It can be a rectangle, it can be on any class, it could be on any layer. It really doesn't matter, right? And this rectangle is going to take a snapshot. It's going to be a viewport. It's going to look into the drawing at that particular spot, right? And then we can move that over to a piece of paper. The way we do that is we go to our View, pull-down menu, and you'll note near the bottom there is an option that says Create Viewport. The Create Viewport is what we want, and it will use that rectangle to define a photo window, if you will. It's like a frame. So yours probably says Viewport 1. Again, I've been doing a whole bunch of these, so bear with me a little bit. We can just let the viewport name be the default. However, what we want to do is we want to do this pull down, right? Create on layer. And what I want to do is I want to scroll up. You're going to have to scroll up to the top. And what we want to do is we want to create a new sheet layer. Again, that's create on layer, do the pull down, scroll up, and new sheet layer, right? The default is probably fine. It says sheet number, right? Sheet number 1, sheet title. We could title it if we want to, and we could come back and change that later. For right now, let's just leave it as it is, and I'll say OK. There are other options here. I can change the scale of the drawing. I can change all kinds of other things about it. But for right now, let's just leave everything as it is. The only thing that I've defined is to create on a sheet layer. And I'll say, OK. Now, it looks like that it's just the same as your design layer, but it's not. You can see the page boundary that's out here. And again, we could go to our move page if we want to, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of leave it all right where it is for right now. Right? Now, let's click on this. This viewport that we created, if you look in the object info, the viewport is now an object, right? We can't edit anything here. This is just a picture, if you will, of what we have drawn. And we have taken this picture and we have put it now on a piece of paper, right? It is an object that is now controlled as an object, right? And we can grab it and move it around on our piece of paper, right? We can place it wherever we want. I'm going to slide mine over to the side a little bit, right? Now, we can change our picture. We can go back and edit, right? Let's assume that maybe I cropped this badly and that I want to get rid of this front lighting position that's here. If I right-click on the viewport, I get several options. I get all this stuff up here, but what I'm after are these edit commands at the bottom. Let's go ahead and do an edit crop, right? So if I edit crop, I get my rectangle back that I had defined, and I can adjust that rectangle. I can move that rectangle up so that I get rid of that electric. See how everything's sort of grayed out underneath of it? And then I have an exit viewport crop up here, exit, and now you can see that I've changed that window. I've altered the window that is the crop. Let's go back and say edit crop again, and this time I want to go ahead and change it down, right, to include this pipe. I can say exit crop. Now you can see that my viewport, right, is now bigger, but it's bigger than my piece of paper. And if I need all of this information to fit on here, yes, right, then I'm going to need to make some choices about either altering the scale or changing the viewport crop. Okay, so let's do this one more time. Let's go ahead and edit my crop, and I am going to just not move it. I'm going to resize it so that it fits back on my page, and I'm going to edit that, and we'll go with that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pause here now. This is just a first setup of a sheet layer.